all the time. Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty State Sports Studios.
And welcome into the John Nabors Show here live from Natty State Sports Studios. Appreciate everybody listening in and watching in on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I am your host, John Nabors, and appreciate each and every one of you for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon. Happy Friday to all of you out there. We're talking about rivalries and also the quarterback position for Arkansas over the past 15 years. Really interesting stuff. But we know that during this time of year, there's always these little graphics getting thrown up on social media that people are responding to and debating, because that's just what happens when things are slow. And if I had a nickel for every time that I've seen an SEC team's football schedule gets put up and says, so-and-so team will have blank amount of wins, and then people start debating and arguing, and then the chat and into the comments and everything. And I got tagged in a lot of these over the week because a few people I know, said about Arkansas, and they gave their takes on it and everything. So it was just interesting. It's intriguing, and it's fun. It's all in good fun. But I decided that, you know what, if everyone's wanting to talk about it, let's just do where it stands right now. Because listen, we are still 83 days away, Jeremy Sprinkle days away, from Razorback football. And so there's a lot of time, a lot of things that can change during that point. And since I always get accused of being a little bit of a homer and gassing up the football team and the expectations that come along with it, I figured, what the heck? Why not just go ahead and give the early June season game-by-game predictions for the Razorback football team in 2024? Now, I'm going to be honest. I know a bit about each of these teams, what do they have returning, what their style's like, what the matchups like, and everything. But as far as just going in through the in-depth analysis, there's still a lot of pieces and a lot of things that are moving with a lot of these teams, Arkansas being one of them. So let's go ahead and put up the schedule right now and dive into it. This is the Arkansas Razorback football schedule for 2025. Electric. Now, I will say, before we get into the games, this Razorback football schedule, I'm not going to say it's favorable, and I'm not going to say it's easy, but it might be the easiest schedule Arkansas's had in quite some time. Even though it still may be death row, it just may not be as long of a death row. You know what I'm saying? So I think the SEC felt sorry for Arkansas whenever they really boned them in that COVID year of saying, oh, you got those 8 SEC games. Well, how about this, Arkansas? Even though you've had 2 of the worst years historically, even though you have a brand new head coach who's never even had spring practice before because it got canceled, here's Georgia and Florida. So Arkansas had to navigate through that, and I'm thinking that maybe, just maybe, this schedule in the SEC is trying to make amends and trying to make up for that. Maybe I'm giving the SEC too much credit, but still, it's a solid schedule. I've seen a lot worse. In fact, I saw with the ESPN FPI, they actually had Arkansas not in the top 10 in college football with the most difficult schedule. Well, my goodness, for the first time ever, it seems like Arkansas does not have a top 10 most difficult schedule. So either way, it's pretty solid. So going through the games, we'll do it game by game, but just to give you a little bit of an overview, there are 2 bye weeks that Arkansas has. One of those bye weeks being October 12th and the other one being November 9th. They have 4 SEC home games, 3 true SEC road games, and of course a neutral site game in Arlington, while they're also playing 3 non-conference opponents at home in Fayetteville and 1 in Stillwater against Oklahoma State. So let's go ahead and jump into it. UAPB. That game will be played in Little Rock at War Memorial Stadium. It was also moved to a Thursday night. So I'm actually in favor of this. I know some people may not be, especially those who may be in the Central Arkansas area. I'm a fan of this. And the reason I'm a fan of this is because, one, last year's game on that Saturday was so miserable and so hot that it was bad for everybody. They tried to move up the game time. Nobody was ready. They ran out of water. It was a disaster area, and it was trash. But I'm hoping, because this game being on a Thursday night, one, it's going to be cooler, thank goodness, at least it should be, since it's going to be played at 6 o'clock. But also, it gives you that little extra week and a half to prepare for a really big game, big non-conference game coming up in Stillwater. So we'll start with UAPB. UAPB is a team that is an in-state opponent that Arkansas will be playing in Little Rock, and this is going to be the second to last game ever that ever gets played in War Memorial Stadium for the Razorbacks, because next year they'll be playing Arkansas State. But UAPB, this should be a cakewalk of a game. It should be. Arkansas played them a couple of years ago in Little Rock, smoked them. They played Western Illinois? Yeah, I guess. Yeah, last year. Smoked them, the only game that they actually smoked the other team in. And I don't think this will be any different. Arkansas is going to come out motivated. Petrino's going to have a game plan. Arkansas has better athletes. They have more talented team. And I think this night game and all that, I think everything going along with it, it's going to be an easy win for Arkansas. So they take care of business against UAPB. They get the dub. Now, the next game is Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, without question, to me, and this is something we're going to talk to Barrett Sallee about because I'm sure he'll disagree. To me, the Oklahoma State game is the most key game in all of this. Now, it's not an SEC game for sure. But given the circumstances and going up against an Oklahoma State team that is decent, they're always going to be decent. They got some production coming back, but some of it has moved on. They're usually a team that plays better as the year goes on, and in the beginning is when they've had their struggles. But either way, this is going to be the key game for Arkansas, and really, to me, the good indicator of what type of season it is going to be. Because if Arkansas goes on the road into Stillwater, into that heat, which we know it's going to be hot as balls going out there, if Arkansas is able to go out there and win, that opens up the door for having a really good year. And when I say a really good year, I'm talking about 7-8 wins. It opens the door up for it. Now, it's not a guarantee, but given the circumstances and given the schedule and given the type of quality teams that you're going to be playing, I believe that it's going to be very difficult. Very difficult. So, how does this game go? Well, again, I cannot be held accountable for these predictions later in the year because I have the right to change my mind. That's the most important thing. But folks, as of right now, I think Arkansas goes in and beats Oklahoma State. I really do. I think Arkansas is going to be at its healthiest. I think Arkansas, for the most part, has always played their best football in the beginning of the year under Sam Pittman. I mean, even in 2022, you think about that season that ended 7-6. Like Arkansas started, though, with a nice win against a really good Cincinnati team. They beat South Carolina pretty handedly, a team that went 8-4 that year at home. Then they played Bobby Petrino in Missouri State, needed to come back. But that's when they were playing their best, and they should have beaten Texas A&M. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. But still, they usually play their best football in the beginning of the year. They did in 2021, did in 2022. Last year, I guess. But still, I think it'll be the same case. And I think Arkansas goes to Oklahoma State and gets a dub. I think they win. And I think people are starting to feel themselves a little bit. It'll be a close game, hard-fought game. Maybe Oklahoma State makes a fumble or has a fumble or a turnover late in the game for Arkansas to get it. But I think Arkansas wins. Now, the next game against UAB at home. You're flying high. You know, you felt good. That Bobby Petrino offense had plenty of time to prepare for Oklahoma State, and they were able to score at will. You know, running the ball, having great tight end play by Luke Has. The confidence is starting to build. And anytime you go on the road against a Power 5 opponent and able to get a victory, the confidence is always going to be there. However, there is still always the case of a possible letdown. Arkansas will beat UAB. They will beat UAB. But it's not going to be the cleanest of games. That has a game, like a game time of like 3 o'clock written all over it. Still hot outside. A lot of people maybe not, getting after it and getting going and all of that. Like maybe there's still some pieces there because it's like actually the game's at 3:15, which is also weird. I thought it was 3, but it's 3:15. Okay, but either way, I think that game is going to be a little bit of a meh. You win, but you didn't look crisp. You didn't look good. You end up winning this game like 24-13, something like that. Just not great, but good enough to win, and that's really all that matters. And also going back to the Oklahoma State game real quick, since that game's at 11 a.m., I also feel like that always benefits the road team. I could be wrong, but I feel like that usually benefits the road team. So Arkansas starts 3-0. There's my prediction on June 7th, 2024, the year of our Lord. Arkansas starts 3-0. Now comes conference play. And you have a very first game against the Auburn Tigers on the road. That Auburn Tiger team, second year under Hugh Freeze, beat the brakes off of you in your home stadium last year, which, again, I'm not using that as any sort of testing run because I still believe Arkansas mailed it in and they just didn't care. They wanted the season to end. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just going off of what I think. But then go on the road to Auburn, and we know about this game, man. This game is always tough. I'm sure the officiating will be perfect, but I think you lose. I think that you go over there, you play decent enough. I think there could be some sort of breakdown, whether it's the defense is figuring out a way to get you. Hugh Freeze has beaten Sam Pittman twice in a row when he was at Liberty and then at Auburn last year. So maybe there's a little bit of a edge, but still, I don't think Auburn's that great of a team. I actually think both of these teams are probably evenly matched, but because it's at Auburn and I don't know, that could be an 11 a.m. game depending on what Auburn does. Odds are, though, it'll be a night game because it's not going to be game of the week. So it could be a night game, which could make the home crowd be very much into it. But I think Arkansas drops that game, and they sit there at 3-1. Then comes the most interesting but most infuriating game every single year for Razorback fans, Texas A&M in Arlington. How I hate this game and how I used to love it. And now I hate it. I think every Razorback fan hates it. This is the final time Arkansas and A&M will be playing in Arlington, so at least you have that. It's a frustrating one. There's been so many occasions, so many times. In fact, it doesn't matter because you didn't win the games. But A&M has owned Arkansas in this series. But I would say 80% of the games Arkansas should have won. But they blew a lead. They got stupid. They did dumb things. Bielema blew it, whatever. But every game has been close. Even Chad Morris, for all that is holy. Chad Morris played A&M and lost by a touchdown his first year and then lost by 4 points his next year. And I'm like, wow, like that just shows you. This game has always been about, at least when it's played in Arlington, this game has always been about A&M being good enough to win and Arkansas being just bad enough to lose. That's how it's been. But you have a new head coach down there at Texas A&M. You have Mike Elko, who a lot of people are excited about. Jimbo Fisher got fired and everything. So here's going to be my little twist into this, folks. I truly believe, where it stands right now, again, keep saying this, in June 7th, I think Arkansas wins this game. And it's because of Bobby Petrino. This is all I'm basing it off of. Well, maybe some other things. But all I'm basing it off of is this. Bobby Petrino never lost to Texas A&M as head coach at Arkansas. Beat him in 2009, 2010, and 2011 in this building. And the other time that he was a part of this game was the offensive coordinator of Texas A&M last year, to which A&M won. So whenever Bobby Petrino, whichever side of the ball, whatever side of the field he is on, in this game in Arlington, his team always wins. Maybe that's too simplistic to look at it, but that's the way I'm choosing. I think Arkansas wins it. I think instead of this game always going against Arkansas, instead of Arkansas blowing it, instead of Arkansas, having that one play, whether it's a return for a touchdown on a fumble at the goal line, a missed field goal, skipper tripper, any of that crap. I believe this is the time that Arkansas beats Texas A&M. In the final game of the Southwest Classic in Arlington, Arkansas wins. They beat Texas A&M. It's a hard-fought matchup. It comes down to the wire. It's really close. But Arkansas gets the win in the end, something like 31-27, some of that nature. And Arkansas gets a little bit of revenge and now feeling pretty good. They're 1-1 in SEC play. So let's bring up the Tennessee Volunteers. All right, you get finally to come back home and not have, it's so crazy to me that you don't have your first home SEC game until October. But that's just the way the cookie crumbles. You're going to be playing Tennessee in Fayetteville. Now, Tennessee is a team that you have actually had success in the last few times you've played them. In 2020, the COVID season, you came back and you beat them then. Before that, you played them in 2015. You beat them there. I guess, it was there. It was in Knoxville. Wasn't pretty, but you beat them. Butch Jones was the coach there. So you beat them then. 2011, we all remember the Joe Adams play. So my point is that Arkansas, whenever they've played Tennessee in football, they've actually had a lot of success. So how does that correlate to this team? That's yet to be determined. But I'm telling you right now, folks, this game right here has the potential. I know I talked about the Oklahoma State game being crucial to the team's overall success. This game's going to be the most crucial one to Razorback SEC success. Because it is a game that it's a quality team in Tennessee. You know they're going to have offense. You know Josh Heupel is going to score points. You know they're going to take care of business on that front. So what do you do? How do you do it? How do you make this work? Well, it's going to be a barn burner, an absolute barn burner. But I think Arkansas loses. I think that their defense wears down. Arkansas's defense wears down in the end. I think it's a high-scoring affair. You got great offensive mind versus great offensive mind. It's a shootout, but Arkansas ends up too little too late. Tennessee maybe scores a touchdown to go ahead, then Arkansas maybe gets a field goal in the next possession. Tennessee scores it to make it a two-possession game, and they never look back late in the game. So I think Arkansas loses this one to Tennessee. I could see it being like a 45-38 game, something like that. Maybe even higher scoring than that. But it's going to be entertaining. It's going to be entertaining to say the least. So through the first 6 games for Arkansas, in my opinion, through the first 6 games, you are 4-2. I know. You're probably like, you're smoking crack, John. And that's fine. You can think that. But you're 4-2. You get a bye week, and then you get LSU at home. Now, coming off of a bye week and playing an LSU team is always great. And this game for the past 4 straight seasons now has ended with the winning team only winning by 3 points. Only winning by 3 points. So it's been weird, to say the least. A weird game. And we'll talk about that game here in just a little bit. But folks, I got to tell you about our friends over at Alumni Hall. All you Razorback fans out there, I know that you are ready for the summertime to get out there and to start enjoying some golf, enjoying the lake, enjoying the beach, doing all that stuff. Well, get you some Razorback gear to represent the Hogs wherever you're ending up going, and get it through Alumni Hall. Because right now they have a great deal going on for all of you. Because if you go to nattystatesports.com/alumni hall, you have free shipping this weekend. Free shipping this weekend. All you got to do is visit nattystatesports.com/alumni hall, and they'll take care of shipping for you. So I know a lot of you are trying to, get to the store there in Fayetteville at 3417 North College Avenue, which is easily and conveniently located. So check that out too. You can do that. But we know that we are global here at Natty State Sports, and people who listen and watch throughout all the country, and even the world, they want to have the Razorback gear too. So check them out today by going to nattystatesports.com/alumni hall. They got everything you need. They got Peter Millar. They got Johnny O. They got Columbia. They got Nike. They got men, women's, kids, pets, decor, everything you possibly want. It is the coolest place and is the ultimate Razorback shopping destination. So check them out today. It's Alumni Hall at nattystatesports.com/alumni hall for free shipping. All right, so LSU, the battle for the Golden Boot. Sweet. This game has also been one, as I mentioned, has ended in 3-point wins. Last year, you went down there to Death Valley and at night, and you lost by 3. Lost on the last second field goal by LSU. The year before that, in 2022, you lost 13-10 in the cold weather with Malik Hornsby as your starting quarterback. I think that was the game. Oh, I forgot his name now. I can't believe I did. But the guy that was the defensive end linebacker for LSU that had like 18 sacks in that game. That was a nightmare. So that game ended in 3 points. The year before that, Arkansas won in overtime down there in Baton Rouge by Cam Little hitting a field goal and hitting the gritty on the middle of the field. And the year before that in Fayetteville during the COVID season, Arkansas only lost by 3. They had no D linemen. So the point is that this game is always close. Always close. And it's pretty amazing that 3 straight games or 4 straight years it's been 3-point games. However, I think Arkansas loses. I do. I know that Arkansas has fought well against LSU, but LSU still has a lot of premier talent. And I think LSU is going to come into Fayetteville extremely motivated. I think at that point in time, LSU may still be fighting for something, maybe still be on the line for an SEC title or even playing for the playoff, whatever it may be. But LSU comes in and beats Arkansas. It's hard fought. It's another close game. Who knows? Maybe it ends up being another 3-point game. But I think Arkansas just makes too many mistakes, and LSU has too talented of a team, especially defensively. So I'm going to take LSU in a close loss, and that puts Arkansas now at 4-3. So then you go on the road to Mississippi State. This is a team that also has a new head coach, and Jeff Lebby, an offensive guru and an offensive mind and offensive genius. Well, I am so glad, folks, that Arkansas and Mississippi State changed their offensive philosophies and coordinators, because my God in heaven, this game that ended 7-3 last year in regulation never needs to be talked about or mentioned again. But I'm going to keep doing it because I want to remind everybody just how terrible it was. I want you to be despair in my misery for having to be there for that game and watch that game. But this game's going to be there in Starkville. Now, Mississippi State may be one of the teams that gets picked to finish low, but they are going to be a team that it seems like a classic old school Big 12 Texas Tech type of team where they can load up 50 points a game, but they give up 45. And I think that's going to be the same case in this one for Arkansas and Mississippi State. It's probably going to be an 11 a.m. game in Starkville, and you're going to have two teams going at it with a high scoring affair, and it's just going to be insane. It's going to be insane. But I do believe Arkansas wins. I think the Arkansas offensive philosophy with Bobby Petrino, all of that, it's, again, high scoring, maybe a lot of back and forth, and everyone's complaining about the defense on their Twitters. But I think Arkansas will be a better team. I think that they make some plays defensively, maybe even get a pick or two, and Arkansas's offense scores whatever they want. They can pick their score against Mississippi State. That's how I feel it goes down. Arkansas wins that game on the road against Mississippi State, and now they're sitting at 5-3 overall. Now comes a very interesting game. The Arkansas-Ole Miss game. Ole Miss is going to be a really good football team this year, folks. Lane Kiffin's a good coach. I kept trying to hope and pray that he would leave Ole Miss, but he hasn't. And since 21, he's gone 10 wins, 8 wins, 10 wins in 3 straight years. He's got it going there at Ole Miss. I hate to admit it, but he does. And so, as much as he has it going there at Ole Miss, it's still weird to me that Arkansas does one of two things against Lane Kiffin. They either beat the crap out of their team, out of Ole Miss, or they barely lose a hard-fought matchup. Like, Ole Miss doesn't blow out Arkansas since Lane Kiffin's been there. I don't know if it's just a coincidence. I don't know if it's just about the matchup. I don't know. Like, there's so many things that it could be. But last year, Arkansas went into Oxford at night and had probably one of their best defensive performances against a big-time great offense. And you could tell that Arkansas's offense in that game, that's when the frustration started to boil over. It was a mess. But the last 2 times that Arkansas played Ole Miss in Fayetteville was in 2020 and 2022. In 2020, y'all remember that, Matt Corral threw 6 interceptions in a game in regulation. And Hudson Clark, the no-fly zone, had 3 of them. And then in 2022, Arkansas was an all right team. I mean, they had been doing okay. And Ole Miss was better. Ole Miss was a better team. And they walk into Fayetteville and they get smoked. Smoked. It was 35-7 at halftime. I'll never forget it. But tailgating all day, freezing cold. It was a night game. And Arkansas just, I think even in the first play of the second half, because Arkansas scored the final touchdown with just seconds to go before halftime, go 35-7. Then Arkansas got the ball back. And then, like, the first play from scrimmage, Rocket Sanders takes it to the house, and they're up 42-7. I mean, just blitzkrieged them. I don't think this is going to happen again in this game. I don't. But Arkansas is undefeated against Ole Miss at home. Arkansas plays really well against Ole Miss at home. So I'm going to go off of history. I'm going to go off the tradition. I'm going to say Arkansas wins this game. They upset Ole Miss because I think Ole Miss, again, is going to be a really good team. I know Ole Miss fans hate playing Arkansas because even in their best years, it seems like, like they just, Arkansas gives them all that they want. And I have some bunch of Ole Miss friends that have talked about this. They're like, they hate the game against Arkansas because it just doesn't make sense, which I agree. It never makes sense. There's no logic or reasoning behind it. But I think Arkansas takes care of business. I think they get it done. I still believe that it'll be a close game, maybe closer. It's not going to be blowout city, so I'm not going to throw that out there. But it's going to be a pretty close game, and Arkansas does more. They maybe get an interception. They make a play, get a fourth down stop because you know how Lane Kiffin loves to go for it on fourth down. Something like that changes the momentum late in the game, and Arkansas takes care of business. So now they're sitting at 6-3. Folks, they have made it. They have made it to bowl eligibility here in the, first 9 games of the season? Bowl eligibility. They're going to a bowl game. How about that? How about that? But then they got a lot more coming up next. A lot more coming up next. And we'll talk about that here in just a second. But folks, I got to tell you, during the bye week of the discussion here, you need to make sure that you are getting all of your stuff squared away for the summertime, whether it's your new pool that you're trying to install or whether it's fencing or drainage or anything like that. And you need to do it with Superior Contracting and Development out of Arkansas. They're licensed residential and commercial contractors specializing in all aspects of home building and remodeling, whether it's fencing, drainage, additions to remodeling of your existing structure, all the way to land development and ground-up construction. You can call them for the interior, exterior construction, and remodeling needs. It's as simple as that. And also right now, we know that there's still people recovering from the awful storms that went through the state of Arkansas and also in the region. Well, insurance companies are required to restore homes to their pre-storm condition. That's what they're required to do. So Superior is seasoned in working with all the insurance companies and helping homeowners get everything that they should be getting out of their insurance claims. And if you mention the fact that you heard them from Natty State Sports, they'll be able to, they'll take a little extra care of you. And, they're good people over there, and they always make sure that they get everybody here in the Natty State taken care of. But not just there, because there's also storm damage that's in Northwest Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, and they can help you and take care of it all. So give them a call today at 501-453-3053. That's 501-453-3053. You can also visit their new website at superiorcontractingar.com. No matter what it is when it comes to your interior and exterior needs, do it with Superior Contracting and Development at 501-453-3053. All right, so here we are, final stretch of the season. Arkansas is 6-3, bowl eligibility, baby. And they're going into a bye week. Much needed bye week, I am sure. Maybe they're dinged up at places. They're losing a little bit of depth. People are needing a break. And they head into November 9th into the bye week as they get prepared for what will be a very important stretch down the line for Arkansas. And how do they get welcomed after this bye week? The Texas Longhorns. One more time, Horns. So Texas comes to town. Texas is going to be one of the best teams picked in the preseason. Texas was a really good team last year, made it to the playoff, and this is going to be their first year in the SEC. Arkansas, last time they played Texas and Steve Sarkisian, beat the brakes off of them in 2021. Different times, different seasons, different teams. Texas has not just one elite quarterback in Quinn Ewers, but 2 because Arch Manning is their backup. The only reason I mention that is because even if something happened to Quinn Ewers, which nobody wants to see, but even if something did, they got a guy that's still pretty good. So they're loaded with talent. They have all the pieces, and I think that's going to showcase itself in Fayetteville. I think Arkansas loses this game. I think the atmosphere will be electric. I think it'll be next level. It'll be loud. It'll be insane. Hopefully it ends up being a night game. That would be ideal, especially there in November, being late nights, be cold. But I think Texas takes care of business because as much as I think atmospheres play a part in it and all of that, Texas is just too good. They are just too good. And I think they're going to be too good this year. I think Arkansas gives them all they can handle, but Texas pulls away in the end, something like 35-24. But they lose to Texas. And kind of a bummer. So Arkansas sitting at 6-4 now on the season. Then they face Louisiana Tech at home, kind of the warm-up before the rivalry week, if you want to call it that. They're playing a non-conference game at home. Arkansas, I think, wins this game. It's senior night, final game at home. You know that it's going to be your last hurrah for a lot of these players. And Arkansas looks good, shows out. You know, one of those games that they open it up as just winning and beating them handedly, and they don't look back. So Arkansas gets to that 7th win. That 7th win. They're sitting at 7-4 on the year. Then finally comes Missouri on the road. Everyone's favorite game. I've been in arguments with Missouri fans all day long today on Twitter because of the comments from Barrett Sallee talking about how when he thinks of Arkansas as a rival, he thinks of LSU. And Missouri fans are still just clamoring and fighting for the fact that they want Arkansas and Missouri to be a rival. I don't know why, but they do. And they think that's all because Arkansas thinks that they're above Missouri. I'm like, I don't think it's just that. I know a lot of people do, even though Missouri's had a lot more success. But also, nobody likes being forced into anything. And it just feels too forced. That's been my whole thing about the Arkansas-Missouri rivalry. It's like, as soon as it happened, it was BS because Arkansas lost LSU, which was actually butting into a really good rivalry that had a lot of history between the two programs. And they're like, oh, here's Missouri. So you didn't know, nobody wanted that change. They did. And that's what happened. And then all of a sudden, as soon as it happens, okay, here's a trophy. And it's sponsored. It's like, okay. Like this is just such a forced thing. There's no reason for it. There's no reason for it to happen. And ever since then, anytime you're in a forced deal, if you were in a forced marriage, even if it starts to kind of work out, or even if it starts to feel like, maybe there is a little bit of something here, it's still going to just always leave you because the first impression is always the biggest one. And Arkansas has just felt that way. And again, like the amount of rival comments and stuff was just been hysterical for me from Missouri fans. But either way, Missouri's beaten Arkansas more often than not. And honestly, until Arkansas finds a way to beat Missouri, I'm probably going to pick Arkansas to lose this game. I hate to say it, but it's true. You know, most of the time that Arkansas has been a better team, this is the thing that also Missouri fans are too stupid to understand. And when I'm going to do this on my why I hate certain teams, I'm going to do it about Missouri. But here's this thing that why Missouri fans are so dumb. When I made those comments last year on Michael Bratton's podcast about Arkansas, the reason that I was mentioning this game and how Razorback fans hate this game is because even in more cases than not all, but in more cases than not, when Arkansas felt like they were the better team, and they were the better team, they lose the game. That happens all the time in sports, folks. It's not uncommon. There were times when Missouri was, that year, I guess in 2016, they were 0-7, and Arkansas lost that game at the end of the year. There was no doubt that Arkansas was a better football team overall, but they lost the game. And that's why it's frustrating. And my point that I was trying to make last year, because I didn't think Arkansas was going to beat Missouri when they started playing, getting into the end of the season last year. But that was my point, is Missouri was a good team last year. Arkansas wasn't. And if Arkansas would have beaten Missouri last year, Missouri fans probably would have been pretty pissed off and upset. Why? Because they were a better team than Arkansas, and they should have won. That's the whole thing. But Missouri fans are too stupid to understand that, I guess. Either way, it's the final game of the year, and obviously Drinkwitz is weird. He's got a weird side to him. He's always talking about he's one of the biggest hypocrites I think that's in college sports. Like, he talks about, I'll never forget, and I've talked about this before. He talked about the thing against Florida and Dan Mullen when that fight broke out between Florida and Missouri a few years ago. And then Dan Mullen came in dressed as Darth Vader because it was the Halloween night, and everyone was like, it's kind of weird. But then, Eli Drinkwitz was like, douchebaggery breeds douchebaggery, or jackassery breeds jackassery, talking about him and the way he handled himself. But yet this is the same coach that talks a bunch of noise, that, goes up to Josh Heupel and say, we stand on business, and then runs away because people are like, his players want him to do it. And I'm like, okay, that shows you kind of how, so you talk about jackassery breeds jackassery, but yet you can act like a jackass. Gotcha. Okay. So anyways, this is a game that Arkansas loses more often than not. And until Arkansas finds a way to win, I'm not going to pick them. Last time Arkansas played Missouri in Fayetteville, they won. So there's at least that to hold your hat on, I guess. And I don't know. It's kind of crazy because, I guess not last year in Fayetteville, they lost. No, sorry, that's not what I meant. So they've won one time in Fayetteville. That was a couple years ago. They lost last year because Arkansas again mailed in the year. But this is a year, though, that I think Missouri, this is what's going to be interesting about them, too, is like, I don't know how they're going to look. Like, everyone's pumping them up, but they've only had one good year under Drinkwitz. Like, last year was his first winning season. So who knows? Maybe they have a big letdown. Maybe they're actually good, but I think that they're going to not be as good last year as they were last year. But I still think just because Drinkwitz really cares about that game a lot and everything, I think Missouri wins until I'm proven otherwise. But of course, I'm sure if Arkansas wins, then Missouri will, of course, take it very well and everything. So anyways, I think Arkansas loses. So there you have it. I went through game by game. I went through a long time on this, but that's how I feel. I feel that this is going to be a 7-5 year for Arkansas. Where I'm at right now on June 7th, that's how I feel. Arkansas goes 3-5 in SEC play with their 3 wins coming against A&M, coming against Ole Miss and Mississippi State. And I believe they win all their non-conference games. They go 7-5, end up going to a bowl game like, I don't know. It'd be nice if they go to Nashville for the Music City Bowl. That's the game that has the SEC ties that they haven't been to in so long. Like, they went one time and was it 2002, and they got beat by Minnesota pretty badly. So, anyways, it'd be nice to go to Nashville. Just not Memphis. I'm tired of Memphis. I'm tired of Liberty Bowl. Not that. Vegas Bowl would be cool. I don't know if they'd get that, but I take it straight up. I take it straight up right now. I'd be all about that. So, anyways, there you have it. Hopefully that makes sense for all you folks, and I'm sure you'll completely and totally 100% agree with me with no problems whatsoever. I'm sure that is the case. But first off, though, as part of what we do here at Natty State Sports, I've got to tell you about our friends over at Signature Bank. Signature Bank is the place to do your banking, no matter what it is when it comes to your personal or business. It's the bank to do business with here in Arkansas. That's why we use them here at Natty State Sports. We trust them, and they are the type of people that will always help us out with no matter what it is that we need. And when it comes to any sort of banking and protecting our money, making sure it's safe, sound, and secure, they'll do it. Whether it's helping us out with loans, they'll do it. And when you walk into their bank, you're going to feel the atmosphere come to you as well. Everyone's so friendly. There's never a face that they've never seen, and they always will appreciate you and what you do. So when you walk in there, tell them that Natty State Sports sent you. And there's a reason why we do our banking with them, because they're the best. And they're Arkansas-driven, right out of Fayetteville. So check them out today with all their convenient locations across Northwest Arkansas, but you can also check them out online at signature.bank. That's www.signature.bank. But no matter what it is, when it comes to your banking, do it with Signature Bank, the official bank of Natty State Sports.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
All Natty, all the time. Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty State Sports Studios.
All right, folks, it is time for your Arkansas update presented by Davis & Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owner's insurance agency, securing what matters the most. And some big news. Well, I say it's big news. It's kind of funny to me, but still a pretty cool thing. Arkansas has already been hitting the transfer portal when it comes to the baseball side of things. They got a guy that you probably have heard his name. He's a transfer from BYU, and his name is Kuhio Aloy. You know that name? Aloy? Sounds a little familiar. Yeah, he's the younger brother of Behiva Aloy, who is the shortstop for Arkansas. He is officially transferring to the Razorbacks during his loan season, according to UnitedStatesSports.com by Andrew Ellis. Aloy, he had a spot on the Big 12's all-freshman team after hitting .269 with 8 home runs and leading the team in 38 RBIs while starting 50 of the 52 games he played. He spent the majority of his time hitting the DH spot, but made appearance at third base while posting a .946 fielding percentage. Aloy only worked 20 walks, leading to a .329 on-base percentage, but he showed off plenty of pop during his freshman year with 9 doubles, 1 triple, and 8 home runs, finishing with a .447 slugging percentage. So he's not as big. He's about 6'1", so he's not as big as Aloy, but how cool is that you get to have 2 brothers that, of course, Aloy, we know type of, impact that he's had, and, of course, the people that were all waiting for him to get it going. He started off in the beginning a little struggling, and he still had some moments. Like, that's the thing. Some of his moments were really great. Some of his moments are kind of like, but you see the potential there. Like, he has all the potential in the world, became a great shortstop, And I think he's going to be even better next season. So big time get for Arkansas to get his brother. And I don't know if he'll play third base. That would be kind of fun if he did, because just imagining the Aloy brothers, I'm sure, actually, you know what? I don't know about that, because that will be talked about every single dadgum game on the broadcast. Like, it'll be brought up nonstop, and it'll get to the point like, hey, did you know that these guys were brothers? The third baseman and the shortstop. Hey, your last name's Aloy. They're brothers. Did you know that? Get so sick of that nonsense. But anyways, it's big for them though, and I'm happy that Arkansas is already getting after it in the portal, and we'll see what they can add into there. But I'm sure they're not done yet. I'm sure they're going to try to continue to add some major pieces there. Also, how about this? Another award nomination for Hagen Smith, as he's been named a finalist for the National Pitcher of the Year Award, which is presented by College Baseball's Foundation to the best pitcher in college baseball. He's a left-hander with, of course, one of 5 finalists, along with Jamie Arnold from Florida State, Chase Burns from Wake Forest, Ryan Johnson from Dallas Baptist, and Trey Yesovich from East Carolina. So they're all in the running for college baseball's version of the Cy Young Award, is pretty much what it is. It's not the Golden Spikes, which is the Heisman. It's the Cy Young, which is just truly, like it's called, the best pitcher in the country. So Hagen Smith is a finalist for that. I don't know. Again, I like to say that, like, oh, he could win one of these awards that he's been nominated. But at the same time, I don't know, man. I don't know who votes on him. I don't know what they have to say. They could be completely off base. They could be completely wrong. Like, there's just so many elements of this that could go and happening. So anyways, that's pretty much the biggest thing for the Arkansas update. Dylan Carter's returning for baseball. That's big. He announced it on his social media. So really big on that too. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I know Coleman Hawkins did have a report say that he's no longer expected to visit Louisville. So there's that. We were hoping it's Arkansas, but I don't know, man. Like, they already got 9 players. I'd take Coleman Hawkins, sure. But I don't know if that's the case that it's going to be. Like, I just don't know if that's going to be the guy or the direction that they go. We'll see. We'll see. But either way, that is your Arkansas update presented by Davis & Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owners insurance agency, securing what matters the most.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
All Natty, all the time. Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty State Sports Studios.
All right, we know that as the summer goes on, we get closer and closer to SEC Media Days, which is so much fun. But we also have a lot of exciting things happening throughout the summer where we can just talk about stuff that people argue about and debates and everything, especially when it comes to college football. And that's what we're going to do right now as we talk more college football. So we welcome in a very special guest here to the show. It is Barrett Sallee. He is the host of the College Football Smothered and Covered, as well as on Sirius XM. And he is a college football guy. And Barrett, as always, appreciate you joining us, man. How you doing?
I'm good, John. Just actually getting travel and logistics set up for SEC Media Days today. So it's, man, it got me thinking. I'm like, dang, it is right around the corner. I'm not used to, like, it felt like this off season, like, was so slow. And then bam, June rolls around and it's like, oh, dang, I gotta get on these room reservations for the Omni, these flights, the logistics of Radio Row, all that stuff, man. But I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I know. In fact, as soon as I got approved for my credentials, I'm like, all right, where's the karaoke bar? Like that. Exactly. I don't care about any of the other stuff. That's the only thing that matters.
Well, you know what? I stayed in the Omni for the Cotton Bowl when Alabama played Cincinnati in the semifinal. And there's a lot of stuff around there. So I would imagine within a few blocks, there are going to be some pretty solid places. And you know what? If all else fails, the All-Star game is in Arlington, and there are a ton of things around Jerry World, the new Globe Life Stadium, and all that other stuff around there.
Yeah, I feel like if we don't have if we can't find anything to do, that's an us problem. That's more on us than anything. But it is around the corner. But I wanted to, of course, talk to you about some things with Arkansas, because I get excited about media days. But Razorback fans, by and large, just they'll get excited once they get closer, but it just hasn't been consistent for them, and at least one thing to be like, oh, I'm pumped by this. So you're not a Razorback guy. You probably hate Arkansas like you hate all the other schools in the SEC. So let me ask you, give Razorback fans a reason. Like, what could you point to say, hey, this is why you should be excited and be hopeful for this upcoming football season?
Well, the quarterback situation is going to be wildly entertaining and interesting, just because it's kind of a crapshoot, but there's a lot of hype around it, right? So interested to see what Green does. So, that's the intrigue is there. The schedule is not an absolute minefield like it has been in years past, because apparently whoever was the scheduling czar in the SEC office decided that he didn't hate Arkansas anymore or moved on to a different job. So there's that. And then I know Arkansas fans hate to hear this. The negative can actually be something that is a positive long term. And if Sam Pittman struggles, doesn't that bring excitement? Like, the thing is, like, and I say this in our business all the time, the best content, and this is for us and for fans, is to either be excellent or god awful. Because if you're making a massive change, then everybody's interested. And no, it's not what you like in terms of the short term, but it might mean something long term that brings you the joy and brings you the happiness, especially that at Arkansas, where you've been craving for multiple decades.
Yeah, listen, that's about as good as I could ask, because, I mean, that's pretty much where it's at for Razorback fans, is that they see the Bobby Petrino angle. And, I even saw a list. I don't remember who came out with it today, but it was talking about the most difficult schedules in college football. I think it was the ESPN FBI maybe. And Arkansas was not on the top 10. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is
real life?
Yeah, I was like, hold on a second. This is supposed to be a tradition like no other. Like, Arkansas is supposed to have the most difficult schedule. But not having Alabama or Georgia on the schedule. I know Nick Saban's not at Bama anymore. You get Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss, and Texas all at home. And you only have 3 true road games in the SEC because you play A&M and Arlington. To me, Barrett, that game 2 against Oklahoma State and Stillwater, I think that's the game. That's going to be like, all right, I know it's early to say that and it's crazy, but if Arkansas wins that game, okay. You set up, you should be 3-0 going into SEC play and be in a good spot. But if they lose that game, I feel like that's going to be the type of performance that ends up having Sam Pittman change jobs, perhaps maybe even in the middle of the season.
I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree, because I think that the Pokes are going to be much better than people realize. So it'll be one of those things where, okay, yeah, the frustration is there early or at the time, right? Where you sit back and say, God dang it, this is same old Arkansas. Chad Morris is back, But then once you get into SEC play and you sort of figure out what you are and what Oklahoma State becomes, then it might not be as bad as maybe it appears on the surface. And honestly, John, that is what makes college football so great, because let's just say that's a loss. All hell's going to break loose in Fayetteville, right?
Oh,
because
yeah.
we don't know what that ultimately means, but at the time it's devastating. What if moving forward, Arkansas goes 7-5 or 8-4, and the Pokes go on to win the Big 12? Is it that bad? Actually, I'd say it's a close game. It's actually something to build off of. So I think in the moment, yes, it would be devastating, but it's not a gauge of what Arkansas is. I don't think it's going to be a referendum on Sam Pittman. There will be a lot of people in Fayetteville and around the natural state that get really, really pissed off at the time, but that can change moving forward.
Well, I mean, I see that Razorback fans will be completely patient and rational if they end up losing that game too. I mean, I'm sure that that'll happen, but
100%. They are calm, cool, and collected, and Razorback Twitter will not freak out.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's like I put out a tweet the other day. It's like that hot bipolar girlfriend that you have. When the good is good, man, there's nobody better, more loyal, greater than you. Like, cooks for you, cleans for you, helps you out, gives you back rubs every day. But when the bad happens, it's really bad. It's very bad. So
I compare Arkansas Twitter to Vol Twitter. The
Yes.
Arkansas Twitter is the same thing in the old SEC West as Tennessee was in the old SEC East.
Yeah, that's honestly the true rivalry of Twitter, is who's just crazier is between Arkansas and Tennessee Twitter. But speaking of Arkansas, this was something I thought was interesting to discuss about the quarterback position, because we all know it's the most important position in college football and football in general. But, Arkansas over the past 15 years, so dating back to about 2009, they've actually had a good run and string of quarterbacks. Maybe not the on-field success consistently that fans have wanted, but I was looking through it. Obviously, you had KJ Jefferson. This is going to be the last year or first year that you don't have KJ Jefferson in the Pittman era on the team. But his numbers and his stats were really good, especially in the 2021-2022 season. But then you also had Felipe Franks after that, which say what you want about the guy, but he had a solid 1 year during the COVID season. I'm throwing out Chad Morris because we all know why. But before that, you had Austin Allen, Brandon Allen, Tyler Wilson, Ryan Mallett, rest in peace. I mean, I look at that and I'm like, man, Arkansas's had a good run of quarterbacks over the past 15 years. You see that, have they truly had that great run of QBs? Or compared to the rest of the SEC, it's pretty basic, pretty average, and maybe I'm just looking through it with my Razorback tinted glasses on?
No, I'd say it's slightly above average, which, in the SEC is pretty solid. I mean, take a look at Florida. Can Florida say that? No, they can't say that. Can Auburn say that? No, Auburn can't say that. Can LSU say that? Maybe to a point. A&M certainly can't. Ole Miss, kind of. I mean, so, if you're consistently above average at the quarterback position, you should be happy. You should be proud of yourself. And, I think that has never been the problem, or not never. It really hasn't been the problem all that much at Arkansas, especially if you throw out the Chad Morris era. So, I think is that something that continues from staff to staff, from regime to regime? Probably not. It probably has nothing to do with it. It's just that Arkansas has just consistently found coaches that identify talent that is effective in whatever their system is. So, and I know Arkansas fans probably understand, hey, look, it's the defense 2 years ago that was the worst in college football, or it's the offensive line, which was terrible, or whatever. It's never really been the quarterback. And so I agree with you. I think that by and large, you can be happy with the signal callers. Now, I don't necessarily think it's something that you can say, okay, that means Green's going to ball out, right? Because I don't necessarily think there's correlation between each one of those players and each one of those regimes, and there's a little luck involved. But yeah, Arkansas has been fortunate. There's no doubt.
Yeah, because I was looking at it, and I know that Arkansas has had their ups and downs, but the numbers have been there pretty consistently. And you mentioned it. That's where I'm at. I'm like, it's always something else. Like, feel like, hey, it's the most important position. Arkansas usually does a good job at that most important position, but it's the other finer details that they end up suffering with. And speaking of Taylon Green, I know we've talked about it a little bit, but like, what is his ceiling? Like, can he be under the Petrino system with this offense? And, assuming the offensive line's improved, which I think it will be. You got all the wide receivers essentially back from last year. You got an incredible young tight end coming off an injury with Luke Haas. But just what do you make of him in that system? And you think Taylon Green, after this year, can maybe be in the conversation of continuing on those long string of really solid quarterbacks that Arkansas has had?
I think the talent's there. And I think that's certainly something that is obviously a baseline. But my question is more along the lines of Petrino, right? He's been out like last year. It was just, at Texas A&M, it was a disaster to begin with. And it really wasn't a personality thing between Jimbo and Petrino, although I'm sure that wasn't great. It was just that the whole program was a mess. So what is Petrino's system? What does he do with the kind of player with that, the kind of skill set that Green has, and then B, in a situation where he's got to out scheme everybody pretty much every single week? Because things have changed a lot since his last stint at Arkansas, right? Offense have gotten more dynamic. Players have quarterbacks have become more dynamic. There's a lot more creativity in the sets, in the motions, and the formations, and all that stuff. So, is Petrino able to out scheme other coaches 12 years after he was in Fayetteville? I don't know the answer to it. So I think the skills are there, right? The foundation is there for Green, and Petrino certainly has a track record. But in this situation, it's more stable than it was with Jimbo Fisher at A&M. I don't know how much more stable, but it's at least a little more stable. He's going to get that opportunity, and I think he'll be okay. But I don't think the expectation should be that he comes in and just wrecks shop like he used to.
I think Razorback fans are just hopeful that they don't have to watch a game that ends 7-3 in regulation against Mississippi State again. I think let's start there and go up from there for the offense. But
there was a lot of bad. I'm not gonna lie,
man. And the fact that I attended that game, I didn't even get to see the one field goal Arkansas had because I got into the game late. So I didn't even get to see the points scored. We don't need to bring it up. It's old news. But either way, we're speaking with,
much, I'm not gonna lie.
speaking with Barrett Sallee, who's the host of College Football Smothered and Covered and on Sirius XM here on the John Nabors Show. Barrett, I do want to ask you, because you've talked about, I saw you were talking about the rivals in college football, which, that's part of the greatness that college football is rivalry, and especially rivalry week. And Arkansas and Missouri play each other, whatever. It's if you want to say if it's a rival or not. But I'm asking you, because I asked Razorback fans, they have a different answer for who the rival is. I've always said that Arkansas doesn't have a rival. They need to hate everyone equally. I feel like that's the best system. But when someone comes to you and says, hey, Barrett, who's the Arkansas Razorback rivalry, or who's the rival of the Razorbacks in football, what would be the first team that pops into your mind when you're thinking about Arkansas's rival?
It'd be LSU, the boot. It's not necessarily the most storied rivalry, but when Arkansas came into the SEC, they needed somebody. LSU doesn't have an in-state rivalry. So is it something that historically is anywhere close to others? No. Was it manufactured a little bit? Kind of. But those two were matched up, and I'm fine with it. And I think Arkansas leaving the Southwest Conference put them in a situation where they don't have a rivalry. Ultimately, long term, that's been great for Arkansas. Did it come as, at a sacrifice of Texas or any other Southwest Conference teams? Yes, it did. So I would say LSU. The Missouri thing, I think it's more on the Missouri side because they're so new at this. They want to hate somebody, so they hate Arkansas. I think Arkansas fans just do. I think you're right. They want to hate everybody. And to an extent, I think they do. But I would say it's LSU. Does that continue? Yeah, I think it does, because of the two newbies, do they hate Arkansas? I'm sure the older folks remember from the Southwest Conference days, sure. But, Texas and Oklahoma have each other. Texas and Texas A&M have each other. So, is Oklahoma and Arkansas going to be a second tier? Maybe, but Arkansas doesn't have a first tier. So, yeah, it sucks. I get it. But it also leads Arkansas to, like you said, hate everybody, which is honestly what LSU is too.
Yeah, I was even thinking of, the Golden Boot, battle for the Golden Boot. And every time now, I used to think of it as just, Arkansas and LSU, but now I can't help but think of T-Bob, because T-Bob loves that trophy, and he loves
it's
that.
It's a great trophy.
Yeah, and it's
Have
great.
you lifted up that thing?
I have witnessed people try, and dude, it's like Thor's hammer. Like, you only can be worthy.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. And it's like the weight of it, because it's really thin and it's so heavy. And so I'm like, man, not only is it heavy, but you gotta balance it too, or that thing's toppling over.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great trophy. Hopefully the rivalry remains the same. But I think that most Razorback fans, though, hearing you say LSU, they'll appreciate that. But I also kind of make it on the funny side. I know we're talking about college football. It's all about money. It's all about television ratings and everything. But there's been discussions and things thrown around for having sponsors on jerseys, kind of like what the NBA has done. So my question to you, Barrett, what do you think would be the funniest SEC sponsored jersey for a particular team that makes sense? Like, yeah, you could have pretty much any company, but a company that makes sense that's connected with said school. Which one do you think would be the funniest in this conference?
Pilot Flying J for Tennessee.
Yeah.
That'd
be great.
That have to be one?
Yeah.
Bluebell ice cream for Texas A&M.
Yes. Yeah, Bluebell would be good. Bluebell. I think I was trying to think of like
Auburn would be Kia, Mercedes would be Alabama.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I think Tyson Chicken has to be
Walmart,
Arkansas.
or what is it, Tyson?
Yeah, Tyson. The Chicken Man now. Mr. Tyson's all about NIL money now. So yeah, he get his logo on there. So
I can't think of anything funnier than that, because like you could think of some great restaurants or some cheesy restaurants, or like Alabama football sponsored by Archibald's or something like that, but that's not going to happen. You have to be a little realistic, right?
Yeah.
Maybe Texas sponsored by some famous head shop down there. I don't know. Austin's weird. There could be something weird in Austin.
Yeah. I don't know if they'd allow alcohol because like Tito's handmade vodka is out of Austin. So
yeah, I don't know if that happened.
I don't know if they do that.
LSU could get creative. There could be like Louisiana hot sauce could be good.
Yep.
They do a lot of Brave stuff, so they're definitely in that market.
Yeah, I was thinking like Tony Chachere's. I don't know, like that's big out of Louisiana.
LSU. I think a hot sauce needs to happen.
Yeah, something spicy, something hot
spicy,
sauce.
yes.
Yeah, something like that. Because also with Arkansas too, I thought about Bad Boy Mowers is based out of Arkansas. I was like, that would be a sweet.
And they're in the market. They like to do that stuff. I think Walmart and Tyson have to be.
Yeah, well, that's boring though. If Arkansas really wants to.
Well, it's like the Braves and Quikrete. Like everything's Quikrete in Atlanta now.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. It's like you'll love the money no matter what, but it'll be like, come on, we want something a little bit more fun. Like a gas station or something, like a Buc-ee's. I don't know if Buc-ee's would do some.
But yeah, but I think Pilot Flying J would absolutely throw money at Tennessee. And if Buc-ee's did something, it would definitely be with Tennessee as well. But I think Pilot Flying J definitely has to be Tennessee.
Yeah. Do you know where Yellowwood is out of? Because I remember
Yellowwood is in Dothan, Alabama.
Okay, because I just remember the Jefferson Pilot
that's
games.
Closer to Auburn. Jimmy Raines on the Auburn Board of Trustees. So that's a good one. Yeah. Yellowwood. Yeah, I like it. Like Auburn has a bunch of Kia stuff around it because Kia's plant is in West Point, Georgia, right there. So they'd go for that first. But Yellowwood would definitely be in the mix.
Yeah. Again, we could spend all day just talking about companies and who would be sponsored, but people would light it up with the money. That's for sure. I also want to ask you something because I have an opinion on this, and I saw your tweet about it, and I wanted to bring it up. I cannot think of anything that is more meaningless to promote as a college football program than APR and GPA stuff.
God.
Like, this was something I'll never forget when it was Bielema was at Arkansas. This is not a slight against Bielema. I think it was more of just the organization. But, Arkansas was getting their taints handed to them in games. But then it's like, hey, congrats on getting the 3.2 GPA. It's a school record. I'm like, fans do not care.
Nobody cares
about that. So is it just for like, hey, we're bored and we need something to promote. Here you go. Here's our APR. Like, why do schools do that? Like, why do they promote GPAs and APR scores?
I guess they're desperately trying to maintain the student part of student athlete. And because like I'm a national guy, right? And it came out yesterday and I can't even tell you how many emails I got within like 10 minutes of schools promoting their APR scores. I'm like, delete. I don't give a crap about what your APR score is. Now, look, if your players are smart and they graduate and they're on track to graduate, awesome. Fantastic. Celebrate that. It's awesome. Yeah, you don't have to find a way to put lipstick on a pig, even if your players are dumb. Like, right? It's just like nobody cares. Nobody cares. So is it a way for SIDs to stay busy? Yeah, probably.
Well, and it's funny because a quick story about that. So I was at the U of A when Bobby Petrino was coach there, and I was friends with a couple of the players. And one of the players told me the story about Bobby when he was a JUCO transfer. He said he got in there and they had this meeting with the new players and they were with an academic advisor or whoever. And they're telling him about all this great things, doing this. And he said that after that, she walked out and then Petrino came in. He was just like, if you want to be a doctor, we'll help you be a doctor. If you want to be a lawyer, we're going to help you be a lawyer. I need you eligible. Like that's just what it was. I need you eligible. I don't care what it is you do. I don't care. It will help you out with whatever endeavor you want to get into. I need you eligible. And I'm like, that's how fans are. They're like, it's great that you want to be a double-on major in business and whatever, but it's like at the end of the day, fans are like, but can you throw the ball? Can you catch?
Well, but here's the thing too, like that's perfectly fine, right? The coaches are there to coach football. The players are there to play football. A lot of them want to go on to be doctors or lawyers or architects or whatever, and that's great too. And if you're a football program, absolutely, you should help facilitate that. And all of them do. And so like this idea, like, oh, they're all there to play school. No, they're not. I know a lot of players who graduate in 3 years and have planned for what they want to do after the NFL and think that they can still be NFL players. And that's great. And so this idea that they don't care by and large is not true. And I think a football program, and Petrino, you mentioned him, that's the exact way you should go about it because that's your job.
Yeah. I mean, because no, you're not getting raises for great GPAs. Like, I mean, you're not keeping your job as head football coach for GPAs. But it's like Josh Braun.
But it helps.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Couldn't hurt.
Yeah, like Josh Braun, the offensive lineman for Arkansas. I've had him on a few times. He's a good dude, but he's already married for one. Like, he doesn't mind me telling this, but he's been married before he even turned 21, and he is about to graduate. I think it's this summer with his master's, and he's only been in college for like 4 years. And I'm like, dude, that is sweet. And that is a really cool thing. But then I also, again, when I was in school, I met kids that were like, I'm having the most basic generic like major, taking the most basic classes, and I'm going to do the bare minimum to make sure I stay eligible. And I'm like, it's your prerogative. You're an adult. You can do whatever you want. And that's how I look at it.
There are a lot of regular students that do that too. I'm just there to party and get a degree in whatever I want to get a degree and drink a lot of beer in the process.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I went to college for 7.5 years. It just took me a little bit longer.
I got a C in racquetball for that.
Okay. How did you get a C? Like what hurt you in that?
I signed up for racquetball and I forgot that I signed up for racquetball. So I never showed up. Like I literally never showed up.
That's a great class where you don't show up, but yet you still pass.
It was great. I mean, yeah. I probably should have. See, the thing is I regret. That's not that I regret getting a C. I think that's a good story. I regret forgetting because I would love to be good at racquetball. That's a fun sport and very, very good for your cardio. I wish I remembered that I signed up for it, but getting back to the beers part, there were probably a few too many either before or after or during me signing up for classes that year.
Yeah, because I took all the classes. I took bowling, I took golf, I took weight training, which was kind of my favorite class ever because all we did was you just went into the weight room there at the Hyper, which was the kind of the recreational place at the U of A. But the class was taught by a gymnast that I was crushing on, and she just graduated. So I'm like, I'm going to take this class. So I took it twice. I took it twice in 2 semesters. It was great.
That's good college. Now, here you mentioned golf. I don't know if this is true, but I know when I was at Auburn, this was being discussed, and it should be true everywhere. Golf should be a required class in the business school everywhere.
Yep, I agree. That's a great take because you're going to have to, if you're going to be successful in business, golf is going to be a part of it.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, that's a great take. That's all. You know what? You start that movement, and I don't think many business degrees or business majors would take a problem with that. I don't think they'd be like, wait a minute, we don't want to take golf. We'd rather take macroeconomics or something like that.
Very important.
Yeah, it's very important.
You can go out and shoot a 110 and make one good shot every 2 holes. That's going to be helpful moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you should even write off all your golf clubs and golf balls as a tax write-off.
Ultimately, that's the goal here.
Yeah. We're on top of it. We know what's up. We know what's going on. But either way, hey, it's always fun talking with you, Barrett. It's Barrett Sallee, the host of College Football Smothered and Covered on Sirius XM. You can follow him on Twitter at Barrett Sallee. Appreciate it as always, my man, and look forward to catching up with you. And we'll see you down in SEC Media Days here in about a month, man. It's going to be great.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to it.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
All Natty, all the time. Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty State Sports Studios.
All right, Razorback fans, we were discussing a little bit yesterday about the possibility of Danny Hurley leaving UConn to go be the Lakers head coach. As the time of the recording of this podcast, it has not happened officially just yet. Don't know if it happens or not, but it is still up in the air. And when I saw the debates getting thrown around about the possibility of this happening, and then, people are like, oh, Cal will go to UConn. I don't think that's the case, even though it may be wishful thinking for some. But the point is that I wanted to bring up was about college coaches versus NBA coaches. Times are changing in college sports rapidly. We all know that. But one of the big topics of discussion that always came from this was whether or not college basketball, being a head coach in a college basketball program, is better or worse than being the head coach of an NBA team. Now, I will be completely transparent in saying that for years, most of the 2000s, for sure being a college basketball coach was better than an NBA coach. And as time has gone on, it has gotten so absurd how expendable NBA coaches are. You could have a great basketball team and get to the finals, but lose to a better team, and the coach gets fired. You could have where a team, the players aren't very good, or maybe the players are getting old, and you got a coach that actually is pretty good and did what he can with them, but instead of getting rid of the players or adding more players, they fire the coach. And then they're always going after, former players as coaches, like the whole thing with J.J. Redick possibly being the coach of the Lakers. And so it's like, how often does that actually work out? The Steve Kerr thing with the Warriors. I'll give Steve Kerr credit, but I'm like, was it more about Steve Kerr or just having a great team, great players? And maybe it was a little bit of a match. Sure. But it's just so fascinating to me how the NBA is so player-driven that sometimes they kind of work themselves out of things that they could be a part of and actually make work. So it's just been wild to me. It's a wild, wild thing. But then in college basketball, you had tenured coaches for a long time. I mean, just here recently, you had Coach K step down after decades. Roy Williams, decades. You had Jay Wright over at Villanova, been there forever. Jim Boeheim at Syracuse, been there forever. Coaches that have been iconic and legendary and won titles, have been synonymous with those schools. They've all stepped down here pretty recently and pretty quickly. And now, because of college basketball changing so much, just like college sports, but even more so in college basketball with NIL and transfer portals, it's made it to where a lot of the old guard is they're not into it as much. They don't want to adapt as much. And I think that's a real reason why some of these coaches have stepped down. So because of the fact that college basketball has changed so much and has leaned more towards the pros and how it's handling things, the question truly is like, if you're Danny Hurley, for instance, would you go and coach the Lakers, LeBron, AD, and all that, knowing it's an expendable job, knowing it's a thankless job, no one's going to give you credit for any of it? Or would you rather stay at a place like UConn, a very iconic and legendary basketball program where you have all the amenities, you have some good pay, some good money, but you have to deal with the transfer portal, you have to deal with NIL, you're constantly changing players in your roster every single year, and it can be chaotic, it can be nauseating, it can be frustrating to deal with. Like, this goes so many different directions, and you can take it a lot of different directions. But to me, between the two, I'd still rather be a college basketball coach. And here's why. Well, one, I like college basketball more than the NBA, so I'll be honest. I may be biased in this, and that's fine. But here's one of the main reasons why. It's because in college basketball, if you have success, you are going to get the credit. Like, Hurley at UConn has had great players there, and the players deserve a ton, maybe even more than what they get. But who gets brought up all the time is Hurley, because he's the big constant in both of those titles that they've made, and he's the one that's leading them the charge and putting together the roster each and every year. He gets the credit. And also, as much as people hate the transfer portal, and especially with college coaches, if they hate the transfer portal and how it's handled and how it's dealt with, or whatever, the thing is that if it benefits you in the way of, if you do have a bad year, a down year, you can immediately change it. Immediately. I mean, you can go from being a team sub 500 to being a Final Four team overnight if you do it right. So as much as coaches can hate the portal, because when things are good, it's hard to keep the players there, especially the players that may want to play more, want to have a bigger role. Yeah, that is a difficult thing. But it's also not so difficult if you lose and suck, and then you get after it, and then you change your entire thing. You get more opportunities in that way. Where in the NBA, there's all these contracts. The players are on contracts, and they're making these max deals, and if they're not living up to that expectation, or if they're hurt or whatever, they're kind of screwed. You're stuck with them. And no matter how many titles you win, I'll use the Steve Kerr as an example. Where do people give the credit to in those seasons? Like, Steve Kerr does get credit. I mean, I think people do give him his flowers on it. But when people think of those titles, they think, well, it's Steph Curry. It was Klay Thompson. Kevin Durant was on that team, too. Didn't hurt. Even Draymond Green, crazy self. Like, they give it to them. And then Steve Kerr maybe gets thrown in there in the mix. But if you start losing, like, Popovich is the only example of this where I feel like he's, maybe because he's just, I guess, that iconic, and San Antonio knows that they can't get anybody else. But, like, if there are so many coaches where they've been good, they're good coaches, But because of injuries, but because of players not living up to their potential and all of that, they're the ones that get the axe first. Because it's a player-driven league, and that's why they hire former players. It's never been coaches before because they want people to be the friends of the players. That's why the media is so ridiculously over the top in protecting the players and calling for coaches to get fired because they want to be friends with the players. And I just think that's a terrible sports feel. Now, if you liked in the NBA, that's fine. Like, I'm not hating on the NBA. I watch the NBA. I'm watching the finals right now. So I'm not hating on the NBA if you like the NBA. But I am just being honest about how the approach is for coaches. It's just different. And so right now, I'd rather be a coach in college basketball having high level success than not. Like, if Danny Early goes to the Lakers, I don't know what that means. I feel like that's a bad deal. Like, why would you want to coach LeBron at the end of his career? Because you're going to have to coach Bronny, I'm sure, too, which is a whole other can of worms we could open up. But still, it's just not my cup of tea. But I want to talk about the football side of things, too, because I think there could be some differences there here in a second. But first, folks, I got to tell you about our friends over at BroThrow. By going to BroThrow.com/Natty, you can get in on the action by being able to go up against your buddies. Have you ever made some bets with your buddies? I'm sure you have. And you're like, hey, $10 says this team wins. You're on. All right. Well, you can do that with real people at BroThrow.com. And you save so much money on the juice. Like, you're saving a ton of money. It's not one of these things where Bro throws the house and they get a cut of it and everything. No. You're the one that's making the money. You bet $10, the $10 goes to you if you win. Like, it is as quick and simple as that. And if you go to BroThrow.com/Natty, you can get on the action. We already got a group, Natty State Sports, officially there in BroThrow, and you can get to betting. In fact, last night I won some money. I was able to bet $15 on the Celtics -6.5, and they took care of business for me. But the next game in the NBA Finals, Celtics are going to be at home, and they did a good job against the Mavericks. But the Celtics now are 7-point favorites against the Mavericks. So if you're in, like, saying, hey, I like the Mavericks. I think the Mavericks are going to come out like their hair's on fire and they're going to take care of business. All right, well, how about this? Well, there's a guy, Chris P, right now. He bet $500 on the Celtics -7. You're like, I got that big money. Let me get in there. Well, you can bet on that. You can get after it, and you can make some money in that too. They have different levels. It's free to sign up. So don't forget, it is free to sign up. But they also have subscription deals that could be able to make your experience even better, to be able to raise the limit on what you can bet on. And it's so much fun. It's so much fun. So you got to check it out today. You got to be 21 years or older to do it. And it's available in most states. So check it out today by going to BroThrow.com/Natty. That's BroThrow.com/Natty. All right, so we were talking about coaches, pros versus college. So let's talk about the football side of things too, because in basketball, I still think it's all about the college. But in football nowadays, is it better to be a college coach or an NFL coach? Folks, I'm getting to the point I think it's better to be an NFL coach. I love college football more, don't get me wrong. But I truly am getting to the point to where it's every single problem you may think is with NIL is much, much worse in college football. Because you are no longer like in basketball, you only have to have 13 scholarships, and about, maybe 5 to 9 of those are actual players that you're paying an NIL with. Okay. Well, if that's the case, it's easy to work around. It's easy to work with and make that happen. So to me, if I'm going into a situation to where I'm able to be a coach in the pros where the contracts are set in stone, you're given a little bit longer of a leash, you're dealing with a smaller roster, you got a lot of people around you that's doing it when it's GMs, you're working with them, working with ownership. It's about a good working relationship, so not every GM's good, so don't get me wrong, but it's not like it's all going to fall on you to get it done. Like they've seen times where coaches got fired before GMs and GMs got fired before coaches. But I just think because of so many players that you're having to deal with and the turnover that's happening, and then you throw in high school recruiting, because that's also different in college basketball. It's like you get big time high school recruits, you got them 1 year and it's done if they're good enough to go pro. But then in high school football, it's like you get those guys for 3 years in college. They have to be 3-year players. So that makes it extremely difficult to try to keep all those guys happy. And so it's chaos. It's nonsensical. It's ridiculous. It's over the top. And I can totally understand why coaches are like, I'm out of this. I want no part of this. So as crazy as it is, I never thought I'd see the day, but I believe being an NFL coach is if I was just a football coach in general, and they were giving me two paths, you could be the best head coach here, in the college football ranks, or the best head coach in the NFL ranks. I'm like, give me the NFL. It seems like there's a lot less headache and heartache, because if you give me a great quarterback, like, a lot of it takes care of itself. And you got to stay healthy, I know, and you got to have other players, of course. But if you have a great franchise quarterback, you're going to be good. So as long as you have that, that's the key. And if you don't have it, then guess what? You go and try to find one. You try to draft one. And maybe you fall into it. Sometimes it works out. It's really difficult to do, but I don't know. I think that's why college NFL coaches have been around for longer. I know Bill Belichick, I guess, got fired. He tried to get another job, didn't get one. But like Andy Reid, still kicking, still going strong. And there's coaches that have been at their particular places for a while. It's never easy to be a coach, but still, I think NFL, give me that rank. Give me that realm. I'll go that direction. That's just me, though. But hey, that about does it for us here on the John Nabors Show. Appreciate everybody watching, listening, and everything. And be sure to subscribe to Natty State Sports. It's going to be a big week, a big weekend as we get ready for a lot of things this summertime. And again, folks, if you want to be a part of Natty State Sports and be able to promote your business with us and partnering with us, check them out. And everything that we can do for you, we will do at sales@nattystatesports.com. You send an email there, we'll get you taken care of. And we'll make you a part of the network and make you feel at home, because we love our partnerships. We treat them with respect, just like they give us respect, and we want to help you out. It's not just about us. It's about helping you out in your business. So be sure to do that. We also got some great new items on our shop, so you can check that out today, too. If you go to nattystatesports.com, just click the shop link, and we got some hats. We got some shirts. We got everything for you. So be sure to check that out, too, and support the cause for everything for Natty State Sports. But appreciate everybody. Have a great weekend. Same sports show, same sports channel next Monday. We'll see you then.